It is now recording. Good morning from CBC Dubai. Welcome, Ramzi from Petra Insurance. I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you for taking your time to make us feel more at ease and giving us the right information. That's what our industry breakfasts are about. So, good morning.
Thank you so much. Good morning to everybody. Thanks for taking the time to listen to me. I think the name of the game is clarity. Getting the right information. Right now, everybody's kind of confused. It's very uncertain what's going on. And my job and our job as a company and as an industry is to give you the right info. And do note that things do change almost on a daily basis. So I think we've gone from insurance to information distribution, if you will. So.
Oh, fantastic. So that means that we can count on maybe an update in maybe a few more weeks of the other changes that surely will happen. And we'll hope we could count on an update from you if you could spare a little bit more time again, another one of these sessions. We would really appreciate it. I hope that, I'm sorry, I might as well ask for taping so that way I can get it on tape.
It's all good.
All
no, of course, we're always happy to share. And if you guys follow us on our social media as well, everything is there on our blogs and mailers and all that stuff.
Yeah. Fabulous. Okay. Do you mind if we just go ahead with the poll? That way the poll might help you realize who your audience is, and if there's maybe you want to redirect some of the answers and questions.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Okay. All right, there's a real simple poll going down. Heba, I think I'm going to have to switch you to host. And so let's get this underway so that you can go ahead and make the poll. It's actually quite helpful because these polls, if you'd be so kind to answer them, it kind of gives us like a direction, especially in a webinar. But please feel free to put your questions in the Q&A, and you can go ahead and the poll I see has started. I believe we can actually, even as the participants, we might be able to go ahead and do the poll too. I hope that's the case. Oh, actually we can. So let's get these. There's only 6 questions, guys. That's just enough for a couple of minutes, and this would really help Ramzi with the direction. Okay, I was a good girl. I submitted mine. Okay, I think actually you could probably still put your content on, and while they're doing the poll, Heba will get us to the point where the poll is, and then then we could probably just somewhere in between, when you want to know the information of the poll, maybe then within 5 or 10 minutes, we can give you all the info.
Sure. I'm going to leave a few minutes at the end, of course, for Q&A. I think it's very important. So I'm going to kind of skim through this, and part of that is kind of enticing others to kind of ask more questions as well. So I don't want to spoon feed info. I'll give the right information and we'll go from there. And then that's the way to go. Is that okay?
Fabulous. Go for it. Thanks again.
All right. Let's get started. So insurance as a whole is getting your assets covered, and from business to personal. So the whole point is protecting your legacy for the future. And whether it's a car or not, you're protecting your financial interests one way or the other. And getting the right policy in place and having a budget for such is important. And depending on the insurance company and the broker, the claim process would become more smooth, and you would get your claim paid out in an easy manner. So let me go through the presentation. Sorry, I think it's this one. Yeah. So just a bit about us very quickly. We've been in the industry in the UAE for 54 years. It's a family business that's grown organically, and our job is helping SMEs grow through protection, and also people, like their homes and their families is very important to us as well. I'm going to get started with why we have insurance, which is paying out a claim. And you know, and I'm just going to go through some case studies right now. A few years ago, this is through us. This is all our case studies, so not hearsay. We had a property claim of 3 million dirhams that was paid out. It was from one of the big rainstorms back in, I think it was 2015 or 16 actually. It was huge, and back then there were just a lot of claims, and some were hit more than others. So this particular client got property insurance for their factory. It was a plastic factory, and they also took out, you know, just basically everything within the factory itself. And the rain basically damaged all the material, which is state-of-the-art Italian material, and they were basically done with. And this payout saved their business. It did take a lot of negotiations and going back and forth, and with our help to get it done, because the insurance companies do pay, but they're not going to pay super easily. So this is where we kind of came in and helped out, and they got their 3 million dirhams approximately, and they were able to continue their business. One thing I want to add right now, one thing they did not do, they wanted to save up on, is business interruption and extension to the property insurance. And we were trying to convince them at the time, but they chose not to. And they lost another probably 3 million of claim from not choosing business interruption insurance. So I'll get into that later on, which is very much key in the times we're living in now with COVID-19. From a life insurance perspective, we went through a claim of 20 million. You know, it was a business owner, lots of money, life insurance, took it out, and then about a year or so afterwards, he passed away suddenly. His wife was basically handed over the business, and you know, without this money that was provided to her, the business would have gone down the drain, and basically all the dependents and beneficiaries would have had a different life. This particular person took out the right life insurance at the right time, which led to his family being taken care of, and not just his family, actually the whole business and all their employees. So just another example that a claim that we went through, how insurance you know, works. Another one is a contractor's all risk insurance. So it's very common in Dubai. Basically, you're building a home or an office or whatever, and so there was a claim where just about when the project was finished, some sort of damage happened to the inside of a home. It was a penthouse, state of the art, super expensive furniture, and the flooring was made out of gold. I'm not joking, it happens. And a small piece of flooring, which was gold, was about 200,000 dirhams. Now, it was a bit of a gray area because there was a dispute whether this part of the house or not was finished in terms of the construction of it or not. It was finished, yet the other part of the house was still under construction. So there's a bit of a debate whether, yes, it is finished or not. And at the end of the day, we won the claim for them, for the contractor, which of course had to pay their damage and fix the damage of their client. That's how it works. So from the insurer to the contractor, and then from the contractor would use that money to fix the damage that they caused there. Another one is with medical insurance. We always get this kind of issue and dispute. A lot of times, especially in medical insurance, a lot of the wording isn't read properly when the claim is there, meaning there was an emergency for this particular client. It was denied. The insurance was denied, the claim was denied, and just based on lack of reports. And the issue was when the information was given to the client, it wasn't clear as to why it was denied. You know, and then we got in there, and basically, quite simply, we understood there was reports missing. And once the reports were provided and we had to kind of fight for it, it was paid. You know, I'm not trying to say anything wrong or bad about the insurance companies, but these things do happen. And that's why you need somebody to work for you on your side. And you should always question as to why it's not paid. The best question to ask whenever there's a claim denied is ask which part of the policy is this excluded? You know, always ask that question. And the answer should be very clearly black and white, you know, so just keep that in mind moving forward for all you guys. Now, claims and now in COVID-19. Now I'm going to get to that. As the ones that are proactive, the ones that were proactive will get rewarded, and the ones that weren't may not, and probably won't actually. This is the truth. However, we're going to go into what could have happened before COVID-19, the crisis, during, what you can do right now, and afterwards. So what measures to take afterwards. I'm going to share also a couple of case studies that is happening today. Well, one case study and a couple stories about business interruption happening right now around the world. But I want to go into quickly what you need to do as get insurance. You kind of have an idea of what it is. I'm going to go very quickly with this one. Of course, there's personal insurance and business insurance, very clear. For personal, we're talking about health, home, car, life and critical illness insurance. Plus there's a couple others, but this is it. There's travel and whatnot. For your business, you know, the key is just like you do for personal, but it's more, it's more deeper, if you will, in a business, is risk management. The process has to be there. And risk management is what you do prior to issuing an insurance policy for two reasons. One is, what are the gaps in risk that you need to take care of anyways without insurance, even if you didn't have insurance? And number two, the better the risk managed, the lower the premium is, bottom line. So it's just, and then obviously you wouldn't need to take extra insurance if your risk is controlled. So it saves you money. So some of the business protection that we can talk about is whether it's a big company or SME or basically a one-person company as well. Your business should be covered. You just need to know what your risks are. If you don't know how to understand the risks, this is where you ask a broker to come in and assess what is missing, what are the gaps. Of course, like we said earlier, with the life insurance, you protect the financial future of your loved ones, including your staff, your team, which people been relying on, you know, their salaries on your business, basically, if you own a business. So that's basically it for this one. And what we recommend for businesses is an umbrella policy, which basically covers multiple aspects of insurance. So it covers your assets, you know, your building, what's inside the building, everything you can think of. You know, if you have stock, you name it. And also your profits. You know, this is where we have this business continuity, which is business interruption insurance, can cover your lost profits if you're not able to work because of a claim. Your liability towards others, very simple. If you own an office or factory and there's a fire which affects your neighbor, you know, there's liability that you need to cover yourself. So that's where insurance comes in, of course, and your staff. So workman's compensation and whatnot. So just to let you know, a bit of a tip, we're all working from home, and depending on your insurance policy, work from home is covered under workman's compensation. Not all policies, but some of the international providers have confirmed to us, and we wrote a blog about this on our website last week, that workman's compensation is covered while working from home. So, you know, we don't want to go crazy with claims, and we don't want any abuse there, but just keep that in mind. I'm happy to answer questions specifically on that at a later stage. Another thing about insurance is exit planning. When I say exit planning, is basically protecting yourself while you're in the UAE, since you're an expat. So, you know, if you own a business, what do you do in terms of protecting your legacy here? And so there's some statistics. 90% of business owners want their businesses to be passed on to their family. 80% of business owners do not have a succession plan, which is a big deal. 85% of business owners have no financial plan to exit the business. So, and the rest is you know, is self-explanatory, where 50% of the business owners expect a change in ownership. And the bottom line is there isn't much planning done there. So it's kind of like, this is on a personal basis, or when you say key man insurance for your business, there's coverage that can be done over there. But there's a lot of planning that needs to be done for that, including wills. The structure of their company is a huge deal here, especially if it's an LLC. So that's part of risk management on a personal basis. And I would say that you know, risk management has to happen first. You have to assess what you have and what you don't have, tighten up everything, and then go into the insurance part and talk to an advisor or a broker that you trust. So this, well, key man insurance is something that is important, that not a lot of people take it here, but they do take it back home, back in North America. So if something unexpected happens to a key person, you know, that key person is protected, and the company would pay a lump sum. When I say anything happens, meaning death or a form of critical illness where they're not able to work. So it doesn't have to be the business owner. It could be a key figure, any key figure within the company. So I'm going to skip through this so we can go into it later. Some of the other insurances that we recommend is a D&O insurance, which is directors and officer liability. So basically, when directors or key people in the company, you know, do something wrong, you know, basically that is in connection to their work, which harms others, causes financial damage or material damage. So this is where legal fees are reimbursed and done. So if there's a claim against a director, an officer, which, as you can imagine, is very much common these days back in the States and around the world, this is something that's been used a lot, and it's being asked for a lot here in the UAE. And a lot of the new startups, D&O insurance is something that is very important as a start, just as important as medical insurance, actually. A couple others, professional indemnity insurance covers professional negligence. Basically, it's advice gone wrong. So it's, you know, sincere advice that's gone wrong. So engineers, surveyors, lawyers, consultants, something you should look into for sure. Credit insurance, basically, yeah, it exists. Insurance that covers people not paying you, believe it or not. So that's there, and it's something worth looking into for sure. Another one that's not here at the moment, that's big, that's going to get bigger, is cyber liability. I think you've seen in the news, perhaps. There's a lot of fraud in right now. There's a lot of cyber fraud happening, and insurance is there for that, for ransoms. You know, if you lose data, even there's insurance where money paid out to actually get the data back. That costs a lot of money in big organizations. So just some things there. And I'm going to get into the protection during COVID-19. I'm going to say actually before, during, and after COVID-19, the crisis, you know, and we don't know how long this is going to last, but this time has presented a lot of opportunities for us to kind of assess a lot of things, our business, how we live our lives, our relationships. I'm sure you've had some conflict with people and within your organization as well. So there's a lot of things that are filtering out now. It is a good time to look at your insurance and what you could have done differently moving forward to protect your business. So I'm gonna go into it. So before the crisis, there's many insurances that we just talked about. So I won't go into details, but this is it. There's a couple that I would recommend that is pretty important. Business interruption with a quarantine extension. Now, a lot of people don't take this, and some, because they were thinking, when is this ever going to happen to me? And it's going to cost more money. So business interruption as a policy is not taken out on its own. It's from a property policy. So if you have property insurance or an office insurance, that's the main policy in place. And then from that, you take an extension of business interruption, which includes your profits lost or costs, the cost of continuing your work, even if you can't work in that office. It can be, they can put you, the insurance will put you in another place so you can work, or the money will be reimbursed accordingly. So whatever works for you. And by the way, for home insurance, the same goes through. There's something called alternative accommodation. So if you can't live in your house due to a flood or fire, whatever, the insurance would put you in another place to live, whether it's a hotel or another apartment, Airbnb, you name it, and it's covered. This actually happened with me a few years ago. There's a big flood, and I took my whole family to a hotel for a couple of days, and it was covered minus the deductible. So, and also if you're a tenant and something were to happen to your home, you're not a tenant, sorry, a landlord. If something were to happen to your home, you would lose rent. If there's a flood or fire, you would have no tenants. So there's also coverage for that in certain policies. Cyber crimes is a very important insurance policy to look into, depending on the size of your company. But no matter how big or small, it is important to look at some form of cyber liability insurance. This is not the thing of the past or it's not a thing of the future. It is now. And I think it's important for all of us to look into what these things cost so you can maybe perhaps budget what is important for you. Getting a quote or quotes or proposals are free, or they should be free. And from that, you can make the right decisions for your business and budget. And I'm going to show you a very great case where insurance does in fact work, especially with business interruption. Group life insurance, we've had many requests now. People are thinking about their staff in different ways. What happens if something were to happen to their team? So that's something to look into as well. And these are the other policies that we've discussed already. But one thing that I didn't discuss earlier is event cancellation insurance. This is, if you're an event company or you have events, which I'm sure quite a few events have been canceled, money is not always reimbursed. And so this is where event cancellation reimburses the money that you put into any event that you had there. And of course, not just for COVID-19, it's for anything. There's even for weddings, or that's an event that could get canceled where a lot of money is being put in there. So I'm just saying, like, this can be for COVID or for non-COVID, something to look into if you do a lot of events moving forward. So that's that for before. Now, the truth of the matter is, if you didn't take the right policy, I'm going to go back to the business interruption with quarantine extension. It is going to be very difficult to get anything covered due to COVID-19. Now, but there are some policies, especially if we have one client that is a hotel, and they have restaurants that had this extension, and now we're working on their claim to get back whatever they've claimed, the amount. So there are some success stories out there. They chose the quarantine extension, because they were prudent and that's what they wanted. So from that perspective, they were ahead of the game. So during the crisis, a few things you should look into is, I'll go back this way. Know your policy well before or after signing it. This is very important. And of course, even after you sign the policy, you can go back and amend and add to it. Even at a prorated amount, you can add to it. It's never too late to do anything, actually. There's always a way. Maximize extensions under existing policies. So right now, what we urge you to do is look at your current policies and see what you need to do to extend in terms of, business interruption, and other policies such as that, to look into what you have currently and ask, what will this cost me? There are, even during COVID, there was a huge hailstorm a few weeks ago, if you guys remember. And, we're caught up with what's happening right now, but there were still claims happening for businesses, right? And, just kind of understand what can and cannot be covered. The way we do things is, if it's a gray area and you're not sure, launch a claim and let's see what happens, which is what we've recommended to a lot of clients with us. Especially if the wording is gray. When it's black or white, it's not worth it. It just won't happen. But if it's a gray area, where there's no specific exclusions for the quarantine or for COVID or for contaminations, all these things, then we say let's you know, launch a claim and see what happens. So this is our attitude, and this is what I believe your attitude should be as well, because it's your right if it's under the policy itself. And be ready for all documentation in advance. So right now we're all working from home. Some of us were prepared to have all documents at home, soft copies and whatnot. So I urge you to have all these policies ready with you, soft copy wise, whatever wise, at all times. All right, this is very, very critical. So, you know, professional indemnity, again, you know, there's a lot of bad advice happening as well. So we won't go, like, just a lot of experts, quote unquote, which could lead to a lot of negative results for people. So that's something to be very much aware of. Focus on the essential insurance that covers during the crisis times. So for me, like, that's what it is. Like, what is it that you want to cover? For me, the basic is your business, you know, and then after that, what are you most afraid of, or what you think your business will be hurt most from? There's a lot of extensions, and it looks like a million extensions, but the key is to kind of understand your business, and so we can hone in and focus on a couple here and there that could give you a cost-effective solution that will give you peace of mind. And we recommend going for all available policies. I know we're insurance brokers, we want to make money, but when we say go for all available policies, it doesn't mean going for everything that you don't need. Go for all that you do need. So let's say you're presented with 10 potential options. So if I was a client, I would say, okay, this is my business. What insurances do I need? Give me a list of every single type of insurance that I could use. And then prioritize those, you know, and work with a broker that can help you prioritize what is important. Sometimes you don't need a certain policy now because of your budget, but you put more money into another policy that it will satisfy the risk and will help you sleep better at night, both personal and business. We recommend that always. So there's no point in not checking it out. You know, this is what we tell you to do right now. So this is your time to really learn and what were the gaps in the policies. So after the crisis, we strongly recommend you do a proper risk management analysis. Now, after the crisis is a very great term. When is it over? So nobody knows when it's over. People might think it's a time when people can travel again, when they can open up restaurants, when they open up malls. You know, it depends. Maybe it will take a while. So in terms of people going back and trusting society again and all that, who knows? So this is a bit of a gray area, but my point is, you know, after the crisis, you can kind of, you know, I don't want to say pretend it's not there now, but be proactive from now, you know, and be ready for after the crisis in terms of to press certain buttons to get going with your insurance. Gaps analysis are important. Again, this can be done now, but I would say cover the gaps after the crisis. And I know right now, the reason why I say after is because if you want to spend money, maybe right now you're worried about cash, which is common and normal for everybody. But, you know, be ready with how much things could cost. You know, get as much extensions for existing policies like business interruption, quarantine extension if you need. There's other ones that are for restaurants and you know, other ones for certain for firms, for consultancies and whatnot. Take all policies which can help at a time of crisis. So again, we're going back to what we said earlier, due diligence. So, you know, the number one rule I can say right now for your business is always take out business interruption extension. And even if you haven't done it before, I would strongly recommend you do it now. And it doesn't mean that the quarantine will be covered now, because as of March 15th, around that date, COVID-19 wasn't an unknown risk anymore. So that can't be insured. I mean, if you take a policy after that date. So before that, that's a different story. But strongly recommend to look into it now, because if a fire were to happen, or a flood or major rainstorm, all these things, this is still is still a day-to-day risk. So I think the biggest takeaway from all this is to start covering yourself and don't delay it, or at least inquire about how much these things cost. So you know fully. People expect it to be expensive and whatnot, and this could never happen to me. Well, you know, that's happens to all of us. I used to think like that before in the past, but I think that attitude kind of has to be shifted now, because as far as I'm concerned, anything can happen at any time. I want to give you a case study recently. As all sporting events have been canceled, Olympics and Wimbledon, all the tennis, and you know, we all know about the hockey. It's suspended for now. Hopefully, it comes back soon. So Wimbledon took out. This is a good insurance story. Took out a business interruption insurance back for the past 17 years. They took out the extension. Now I don't have full numbers exactly, but I got some numbers. They basically took out in Canadian dollars 2.6 million per year for business interruption insurance, which equated to $44 million Canadian dollars over the 17 years. And the reason why it's 17 years is because they were afraid from SARS. They woke up from SARS, and from that year onwards, I think it was 2003. It must be. They took out this business interruption insurance, and they've got a payout of $175 million Canadian dollars. So they paid 44 million, and they got a payout of 175 million over 17 years. So just a success story right there in terms of insurance does, you know, help out businesses. This is Wimbledon. They were very prudent. In dirhams, just to give you numbers in dirhams, it's 460 million dirham payout, and they paid about 7 million or so per year for 17 years. So that's 117 million dirhams over 17 years, if I'm not mistaken. There's just a story of a business that took out business interruption insurance. Of course, it's huge, but on a lower scale, it can work for anyone. And it took a specific extension for infectious diseases, quarantine and all these back then. And for business interruption insurance, a lot of in the West and in Australia now, there's a lot of push from insurance companies, from the industry to pay out these claims. And some of them, even for the ones that are not 100% covered in the wording. And the idea is, you know, pay out the claims and then, you know, and make it smooth for businesses to proceed. And then there's some sort of relief back to the insurance companies at a later stage. So this is basically what this blog and article is all about. I put the link there, you can check it out. What's happening now in the world, in Australia, I just read one recently, that there's certain measures where they're going to give relief for clients with payment of insurance policies and whatnot, because you know, to save money, people will not pay for insurance, so they'll pay for other things, and not being covered is more detrimental in the long run. No matter what, you know, saving a few dollars here will hurt in the future potentially. So and we're kind of pushing, us as Petra Insurance Brokers, we're pushing the local insurers to be a bit more humane in terms of not blocking policies, especially medical insurance, and it is happening right now. And we're not supporting clients that abuse not paying, because some of them haven't, you know, people haven't paid for 6 months, nothing to do with COVID-19. But there are some genuine clients out there that are having trouble with cash, in terms of cash flow transactions and moving, and actually just simply no business. So you know, we're stepping up in terms of speaking out on behalf of the clients that, you know, let's be a bit more humane for a couple months. And I'm not saying not to pay the premiums, but there's some clients that have a big policy, medical insurance, and if a couple of people are not added onto the policy, you know, they block the whole policy in place. It's just a matter of delayed payments as opposed to non-payment. So these are things that are happening now, and in the UAE, which I believe will change. They'll be enforced to be a bit more lenient for the clients that are actually paying and on time usually, So this is what's happening right now. And I hope this is it for my presentation. I hope that I've informed you well. This is a kind of interesting where I can't see anybody, there's no feedback.
Yeah, it's actually quite difficult coming from the speaker's point of view. It is.
But I hope I've informed well. I just kind of want to. This is the end of the presentation now. This is our social media stuff, blogs, and all that. Check us out if you can. Follow us. You'll have information, quick info, as soon as you want. So I'm done with my presentation. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. There actually are a couple of questions, but before we have the questions, can we just have a put up the poll? So, because actually the poll questions happen to do with insurance. So that would be, okay. Oh, look, so here's the answers so everybody can see them.
Okay, fantastic.
All right, so is this what you expected? It says poll results. It says who influenced to get an insurance policy? Who influenced an insurance
That makes
broker?
sense. That makes a lot of sense for sure. Friends, and we look at insurance for the most part. It's like you need a referral, a recommendation. There's so many out there. So it's like a doctor, which doctor would you recommend for this, for that? So that makes sense. Friends, family, colleagues, and an insurance broker. That means they're doing their job. So I'm happy to see that.
Fantastic. And so that means also friends, colleagues could be the Canadian Business Council saying that, Petra Insurance is the place to go. So we could make that percentage go higher if we wanted.
Well, there you go. There you go.
Okay. And what about number 2? Does that make any sense to you? Are you more aware of how insurance and risk management can be used at this time? Like, so they actually said that maybe this time, I'm thinking in the last little while, like 70% are more aware.
That makes a lot of sense for sure, because I think in the media around the world, business interruption insurance is now the buzzword. It's just all over the place now, which is really good. Awareness is there, and that's very important. That's good.
I think everybody's checking their safety nets and see if they cross their I's and T's. So they probably are following up. And number 3 is that, have you ever gone through an insurance claim before? 61% went through. So, and 39.
Well, the lucky 39%. I'd be interested to know what the claims are and how big they were from a personal perspective. Car insurance, car accidents, and medical claims is common. So besides those, what happened? And that if the answer is no, maybe there wasn't much insurance taken out to begin with as well, So, or they have taken out the right insurance, but the risk, they've managed the risk very well,
Fantastic. Well, actually, so if for those of you that have answered yes there for the claim, could you in your chat just put one quick word answer, like my claim was for, like you said, I don't know, something, whatever the answer could be, so we could take a peek at that. So please be kind, because these info sessions are just to better what we're doing for everyone. Yeah. So, and number 5, we've got 2 more. Do you think health insurance providers will cover the treatment of COVID-19? 70% believe they'll be covered, which is fantastic.
Yeah, this is a very interesting question, and I did it. It's there on purpose. There's a lack of clarity right now as to what is the process. Okay, so you've heard about the drive-through tests, right? That's happening all over the place. So the basic rule is, in general, is anything to do with COVID-19 treatment is going to be done in the government hospitals. This is the way it is. And testing was done only in government hospitals up until they launched the drive-through test in Abu Dhabi and Dubai and all that. Now, the basic rule is you don't need medical insurance. It's not a medical insurance thing if you have it. It's covered by the government. It's just one of those things. It's not like a flu. It's a governmental issue. It's bigger than just a normal flu, right? So that's why they take it on board. So The other part of it is people who are not feeling 100%, but they're not sure. They can go to the doctor, to their local clinic or their hospital. I know people have gone to the Society German, it was on their network. They've taken it, they've done their whole checkups for other things. And then the doctor over there tells them whether you do need to get tested or not. The drive-through test now, if you don't have any symptoms at all, if I'm not mistaken, they cost 370 dirhams. So anybody can just take it if you feel like it, just for peace of mind, you know? If you've been in contact with people with COVID-19, or you've been traveling recently, well now nobody's been traveling recently, but we're talking about from a couple weeks ago, then the test is done for free. So
that's good to know.
Yeah.
Do and do you have to get a doctor's prescription to go there? Or you just go to the that you know of, the drive-through test?
It's one of those things where you just go to the doctor, and if you feel if you see one of those, it's very tricky, because if you don't think you have it but you're not feeling good, you should still go to the doctor, you know. So now everybody's kind of worried about everything. People are a bit paranoid, and I think what kills us is the paranoia and the not sleeping at night. So sometimes it's good to just get it out of the way, or you know, so that's basically.
Okay, so thanks. So do you, it says the last question, do you want to know more about the, well, there you go, you got 87%. So they want to know. So we, when we send everything out, just because we'll be sending out the slides and everything, can we actually just, well, put right in the letter the contact emails so that people can go ahead and they get a hold of you. This will be done already tomorrow, girls and boys.
Problem.
So
No
thank you so much. So I think we can close that poll. We will be putting another poll up, and it's just a general poll on what you'd like to know for the future, et cetera, regarding our webinars. But while we're doing that, let's go to the Q&A. I can actually look at some of the Q&A. There is an interesting question here. It goes, the question, can you see the Q&A on your part, or do you want me to get it for you, Ramzi?
No, I can't see it. I can't see it.
Okay, so I've got it here. It says, are most companies in the UAE insured for business interruption, BI? Okay. That's the first part of the question. Are most companies in the UAE insured for business interruption, like, or is it a small percentage? What is it in your opinion?
Well, unfortunately, statistics aren't readily available or as sophisticated. You know, I can tell you from our experience that in the smaller companies have some level, when I say we're talking about smaller companies in terms of like under 50, have some form of business interruption insurance because their policies have it kind of built in some, depending on which insurance policy. Unfortunately, the bigger companies, they do have it, but I don't think a lot of them, I would say 50% of the bigger companies, the factories, have some form of business interruption. But the problem is, this is where the key is, what are they insuring? So they don't provide the right information sometimes. Like, they're not clear about what is the amount to insure and all that. And that's something that needs to be really looked into. Yeah, so we'd like to increase it to 100%, but with the right information.
Fair enough. I think the second part of the question was answered, but I'll just go through it. And it says, in business interruption due to COVID-19 and or governmental decision, quarantine is in quotations, and quotations in brackets, sorry, generally covers under most of the BI policy.
So the quarantine part, right, is what we're talking about?
Yeah, let's say is business interruption due to COVID and or the government decision to quarantine, is it covered under the policy?
The answer is yes. So there's a timeline we got to look into right now. So before March 15th, and I'm saying it loosely, it could be March 16th, I'm not sure. There was a point where everything escalated in the world, right? So if you took a policy out before this, and with the business interruption quarantine or infectious diseases extension, it is of course covered. And we actually have a client that has already filed a claim on this. So yeah, it is there. but they took it out. This is the difference. So they were prudent. They understood. And then there's other businesses that are smaller. So we have we insure some coffee shops as well, restaurants, all these things. And in those policies, it's not an exclusion. So, and it's not necessarily obviously included, but there's business interruption as a blanket. So for those, we've actually put in a claim, and they have to go back to their reinsurers back in Europe, back in wherever, and get back to us on that one. So the answer very simply is, if it's specifically excluded for COVID or infectious disease, the answer is it's not covered. And if you were to take out now, which is after March 15th, it would not be covered anymore because the risk is already known. So the answer is yes, depending on your policy.
Fair enough. Fair enough. We have one of the answers regarding what the insurance policy was car accident. So just to get back to you on what people were answering, which I think would probably be the norm, probably worldwide.
Yeah.
So I think in general, I think a lot of this is going to be very personal based. So I think we have another poll. If you could just kindly answer the last poll. It's more of a general information poll. And then the other question was, I saw written on the chat earlier, was as an example, to add on to policies, let's say a smaller coffee shop, or let's say you said a smaller company, like a smaller SMEs and things like that, the add-ons are that substantial that it might, like we saw, that it might deter some people, but is the add-on is it feasible at all? Because in Canada, obviously, we're tax deductible and all this stuff. So I'm just wondering personally, is the add-on feasible for most? I mean, it should be feasible. Right?
Well, it is. Insurance is a percentage. It's a rate of the bigger risk, and it's a small percentage, you know. And so, for example, if your car is worth, let's take example for car insurance, right? If your ar is worth 100,000 dirhams and the rate is 3%, you're paying 3,000. So it's and if it's a write-off, you're getting the 100,000 dirhams back when you pay 3,000. So this is kind of the idea here. A good example, which has been public, is the Wimbledon example, which was, Canadian dollars 2.6 million per year. Over the 17 years, they paid 44 million, and they got a one-time payout of 175 million for the cancellation of Wimbledon this year. So that kind of gives you the idea. It's over 17 years, 44 million, and they got 175 million. So, it's obviously a big enterprise or big business, if you will, with Wimbledon, but it can be, scaled down, of course. It's the same kind of rating principle.
And as someone like yourselves, probably before the person puts the add-on or purchase the insurance, you can actually guide them maybe how to get the payments to become.
Of course. This is our job.
Like you're saying, yeah.
This
so
is
that
our
it
job.
may be okay.
See, for us, we've been in the industry for 54 years. And the reason why we've been in this industry in the UAE, we're not talking about a very stable market. 54 years in the UAE is pretty up and down. One of the reasons that we've been successful here, and we have to say it, is because of the claim factor, right? And then our main thing is when the policy is when a policy is taken out, would this cover any claim that the client would need for his or her business or for their business? So I think that's the bottom line. Not just simply selling a policy. It's about providing the right coverage. So yeah, we help them, of course. And it's about value for money. So the biggest mistake I think clients do, and we're all susceptible to this, is getting the cheapest thing. And when you pay for the cheapest thing, there's things that are not going to be covered, So it's not, you don't have to go for the top of the line insurance in terms of price. There's somewhere in between what's value for money. So the basic idea is getting as much covered with as little premium as possible.
Well, I think this is an ideal time that many people do have a little more time to think things through at the moment, because obviously we're saving a lot on travel time, right? So maybe we should actually sit back, and maybe you can, through Zoom webinars, personal one-on-one ones, you could actually help people, guide them I think that would be lovely. I'm sorry, I'm putting it out there, but I
Yeah,
think that would
love,
be the way to go, because the questions will be very, very specific, and I think this is vital. Well, I want to thank you very much. I think we'll let everyone go back to their whatever they were doing. It was very informative, and as always, you're always so user friendly. So thank you so much. It's such a delight. I'm looking forward to an update, and I hope it's something very positive update, maybe the next little while. If not, again, through our social media channels, and myself, Ramzi, the CBC Dubai, we've always got everything, and we link everyone together because that's what we're here for. We want to make sure the two eyes, I say, shorten the gap on social distancing and make sure that we're all well connected.
yeah,
Just to say that we have a lot of other webinars happening. Please sign up, be just relaxed. And we're actually having a lovely Canada Club occasion where it's just totally social. So please be looking forward to that. That's on May the 6th. All right. Thank you so much, Ramzi. And thanks everyone for attending. Take good care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
thank you.